K-Pro Cow Powwow.
I don't hear anything.
K-Pro Cow Powwow.
Oh, there it goes.
It's a K-Pro Cow Powwow. Wow.
All right, sorry about that, everybody. We had a little technical.
I don't hear anything. There we go. Now I hear the music. Yeah.
And you guys are going to be delayed, so sorry about that. Today's Monday night. You know what that means. K-Pro Cow Powwow. Tonight we got a panel. Tonight we've got Davio and Rodney.
Yeah.
And everybody mute their YouTube. Thanks for coming on with us tonight. How's everybody doing? Somebody still got their video up, the audio. I hear it somewhere.
Not mine.
Okay, Davio.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're good.
Yeah, it was you, wasn't it, Christy? Okay.
And it was a what? You always.
It was me. It was in the background, and I didn't see it. It's
I
gone.
got you. We're good. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks
Michael.
for joining us.
God, that was weird.
Tonight, we're talking Forrest Fenn, Scrapbook, and Forrest Got Mail, and he posted two within pretty close timing of each other, right, on Dale's blog. So we're going to talk about those things. Rodney, Davio, you want to say hi to everybody? Do a little intro. Rodney, you first.
All right, hey, Rodney Greenway. You guys can find my channel. It's just called Rodney Greenway, and then I'm always available to chat at fentreasurethoughts@gmail.com.
Davio.
Davio 22 here. I tell you what, I am waiting for the bloody snow to melt. I am not a guy who's like really interested in building any kind of YouTube, this and that at all. No, I am here for the community. That's right. So you want to see videos? Watch Mr. Moo, man. Watch Moo. Watch Christy. Those guys have got the videos. What do I got? I got boots on the ground fever.
We're ready to go. Do you know when yet? You're going to make the trip or no? Or you don't
yes.
want people to know.
There's that, but I'll say it's within 10 days. But it's all about the it's all about the snow. The snow is
it's crazy. Bananas this year, yeah. We've had more rain in Las Vegas than we broke the record for the year already.
Wow.
I mean, there's been a lot of storms. Yeah, rain today, as a matter of fact. And K-Pro, you want to say hi to everybody?
Hello, everyone, and I will say here's my little synopsis of Rodney and Davio, probably the two very different treasure hunters. Rodney is very thoughtful and not as much live. Maybe it hasn't just been in a while, but gosh, he sees things totally different. Davio goes live, gives away too much, and then hits delete. So be ready for live for him. And then, of course, Cow, he's my partner in crime. I will give a shout out to William. William said, "What's up with no panels lately?" And I said, "William, you ask, we deliver." And so we actually had, for those of you that are questioning why we aren't talking about WWWH, Forrest didn't check in with us and tell us when his scrapbooks and mail were going to be out. And I say that sarcastically. And so right when we announced that, the next day, what did we have? We had some new scrapbooks a new scrapbook and a new Forrest Got Mail, 2,200. And we decided, hey, let's get some people that want to discuss it. And we're going to have some very varied thoughts, in my opinion. And so that's what we're bringing you. We're bringing you a new panel, new discussion, a little bit of different thoughts, or very different thoughts. So we're going to start with, K-Pro and Davio are too loud. Okay.
That's perfect.
Well, I know I'm too loud. I was just yelling.
Some of us just have loud voices, I think, is what it is.
Well, but I do have to say, I replay the things that people say in chat, and then after the fact, oh my gosh, it's true. Yeah. So I say we try to adjust as the best we can. I just put mine down. So K-Pro is always loud. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that.
Loud and proud.
Okay. So
not Dr. Pepper, Davio.
Mike, who are you?
It's just what was in the fridge. This is not my house. I just kind of, prefer to freaking a Coke out of it.
Before we go any further, I'm Cowlazars. You guys know me.
Mr. Man.
Got to give a thanks and a shout out to Davio because I got this in the mail. We've got a little Rudy's Blend from the Crumb Bunny Coffee Roasters in Nevada City. Now, these are beans, right?
Yes, you got to grind them. Sorry.
I don't have a grinder, so apparently I'm going to get one because I've actually never had a coffee grinder before, so you might have opened to a whole new world.
When you grind your own and get the particle right size for your machine, wow! And those are really fresh. Oh yeah, I gave you a couple of other goodies.
Oh, all right. Cool. Check it out, everybody. Mr. Fenn Principal. I think this is the sign from when he was in school. So you painted this, correct?
Yeah, page 16.
Mike,
That's
you
awesome.
need to turn yours up. People aren't hearing, and I'm actually having a hard time hearing you. So
Oh, really?
Okay.
Just put that boom down.
Somebody
There you
saying
go.
turn down.
Yeah. How about that? Test, everybody. So yeah,
I
that's
can
awesome.
hear you guys perfect. So
I know it's YouTube, it's the internet. So I'm gonna put this back here on the bookshelf, so it'll always be in the background, Mr. Fed Principal. So
Cool.
thanks, Davio. I appreciate it.
Look
I'm
at the-
working on getting a grinder now, a coffee grinder.
Look at the back of that. That's actually the bottom of a cookie box. It still has the price tag and the date on there.
Can I show
So
you?
when I-
Coffee with
Yeah.
yeah. This is good for coffee. Going down the rabbit hole. Oh, that's awesome.
There's that, but you see the little white thing on
Yeah,
top that
yeah,
says
yeah.
$7.99.
Right.
Yeah, this is a cookie box that I cut up and I wanted to reuse it. This is recycled art. This is a fun little thing I do. So I paint on the front
That's
and I
awesome.
do whatever. And I put it. You can
hey,
put a stamp on it.
Davio, can you do me a favor and turn down just a little? You and I,
No.
they say that they can't even understand us. It's so loud for us. So I just
Oh,
turned mine down just a hair. We're still making it work. I'm sorry.
I can try something on my
Mike
end
is
as
super
well.
low, is what I'm hearing.
And that's why we don't do panels, everybody. We'll get it worked out.
I don't know where the
hey,
knob is to turn down.
go into that microphone in the bottom left-hand corner of your Zoom,
Yeah.
and then click the little up arrow, and then go into audio settings.
And the way I do it is bottom
Yeah,
right-hand
Zoom.
corner of my, I was going to say, I don't do it in Zoom.
And then in that, there's going to be a thing that says automatically adjust volume. Unclick that so you can scroll the bar.
You're talking for each person to do it in their own Zoom?
Well, I would imagine so. The
Yeah,
ones that
because
they're
I
saying.
don't see
it's
that.
a lot.
Mike, crank it up is what I'm hearing.
Mine's
all
at
the way up, so I don't know, guys. I don't know.
3/4. So, but it's also Zoom where it'll like cut sound out if people are talking over each other and stuff.
Well, it sounds like Rodney, you're fine. Mike, you're low, and Dovio and I are too.
1, 2. Microphone check. Too loud?
As you can see, I have no headphones. I had them; they're everywhere, and it didn't work out tonight. So
You could try the headphones again, Christy. You could try it.
it doesn't
see.
sound like I'm the problem. Okay, wait. Well, actually, I do want to do that because I would prefer that because my world is crazy, and there might be things I don't want you to hear. Okay, so here I'm going to ask the room. Can you hear me? And does that sound okay?
It's
I
not,
can hear you.
it's not through the headset. I can tell. Talk.
See, I can barely. I'm on 100, and I can barely hear you.
All right. Well, then let me unplug and plug back in. Give me 1 second.
I can hear all of you guys perfect. But
Yeah, I hear everybody.
All three of you guys are fine to me. You're fine.
just-
Mark Connor says I'm fine.
I turned down about 50%. Is that reasonable?
Okay, so Tony Driver says everybody's fine except for Mike. Mike is too low.
Well, I'll just let you
Okay.
guys talk, and everything will be fine.
Well, there you go, Mike. I can hear Mike.
Yeah, I don't know, guys. I don't know.
Okay, so this is going to be shocking. So, Mike, you needed me to do more of the talking tonight.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry.
All right, so let's get into it. So I'm going to share the screen so that we can see the posts on Dale's blog, right?
Yeah, so we're going to start with Forrest Gets Mail 20. So Jason dead. Super loud. K-Pro super loud. Sorry, it's what I do, I guess. We're trying. So the best we can.
Okay, here is Forrest Gets Mail, number 20.
Ooh.
Okay, so I would like to start with this. I will read it, and then I want to get your initial thoughts, Rodney and Davio. I posted this on Thor and a couple Facebook pages, and some people have some thoughts, which we will get into various tangents and what we call rabbit holes in a minute. So, Mr. Fenn, I have thoroughly enjoyed the treasure of your stories, and thank you for sharing them. I am blind, and my friends tell me that Ray Charles and I are lookalikes. I am pretty suspicious of their use of those words. My computer can read me your book as I turn the pages, but only the text. I cannot see any of the photos nor the non-text items. Does this hurt my chances of solving your poem in any way? If I should happen to come up with some sort of solution, I have people that can take me. I may even pretend to solve it just so I have an excuse to smell the waters you mentioned and feel the grasses and rocks under my feet. I am already richer for having experienced your guided tour of your travels through life. Thank you, Fred. Well, Fred, because you can't look at a map, you certainly are at a disadvantage. I know where the treasure is hidden, but if I were blind, even I couldn't go to that spot. Sorry. Thanks for listening to my book. Davia has something to say, and I'm going to go shut my door because I hear dogs in there. So, Davia, you start. What's your initial thought?
Well, I mean, I think this is a tremendous giveaway. He is clearly saying you need to be looking at a map. There's something about actually seeing. That's why he actually says Google Maps. Not just any maps. He's trying to tell you to look specifically at Google Maps. There must be a reason, and I do believe I have figured out what that reason is.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh is right. I think this is a big giveaway. This is why Fenn did not put the book out on tape in the first place, is because it puts you at a disadvantage if you only hear it and you don't look at the poem, because there's all kinds of stuff to draw in the poem. So you need to have the visual of the poem and then extrapolate that out to a map, a Google map, and those are the parts you need to go forward. So clearly visual.
So what do you say, Rodney, before Mike and I weigh in?
Yeah, so the whole map thing isn't even the first thing that I noticed. I mean, obviously, if you're blind, you can't really follow a map. But the biggest thing that caught my attention is that Forrest never answered the question about the photos. He immediately went to, talking about a map to take the heat off from the fact that there's photos. So I had a video a while back to where I emailed Forrest to see if I could get the audio rights to the book, make an audio book, and then still have all the proceeds go to Collected Works Bookstore and still go to the donation. I didn't want anything from it, just so people like me that are on the go all the time could be listening to it. And he said, my books don't work without the pictures. And now you have a plain as day black and white message asking him specifically about the photos, and he completely evades that question and talks about maps. And he does so in a way that it's going to be obvious. Obviously, the blind man can't see a map. But his question is, do I stand a chance of finding the treasure without seeing your photos? And instead of answering that question, he brings up map. And then obviously, he says, freaking, if you've been wise and found the blaze, look quickly down. So Forrest says, if I were blind, even I couldn't go to that spot. Meaning pretty much saying if he's blind, he couldn't follow a map, but then once he's there, he can't look quickly down. So it's pretty much saying, you got to have your eyesight on top of, I've said it for a while. I think senses are a big part of it. He says, so hear me all and listen good. Talks about worth the cold, so he talks about hear, touch, eyesight, and all that within the poem. So.
Well, so Mike, I want to give you some thoughts because Rodney, about 2 months or a month or at least a month before you sent that ebooks question, I sent that ebooks question, and I want to weigh in on exactly that thought. But I want to give Mike, what do you think when you initially see this? But there's so much to unpack here. I guarantee we're probably not going to get to the other scrapbook, but let's at least try to figure this out because there is so much to talk about here. But the ebooks is a big one because I did the same thing as you. I got an answer, but a little bit different than you. So let's, Mike, let's talk about it.
Well, first off, I think I fixed the audio, and it was this
Yeah.
problem. Don't eat, guys, when this is by your mouth, because sometimes you accidentally hit it with cheese and cover this thing. So get that out of here. All right, so I think that's what the problem was. That was from a couple days ago.
I'm so glad it's not don't drink because I have my coffee right here.
You're right. So let's just go 3 hours tonight, huh? We all can talk about this for a while. I got time. But anyway, okay. So it's interesting that Rodney pointed out the word look. He said you can't look quickly down if you're blind, because if you look, get it? If you look at the email, it says, my friends tell me that Ray Charles and I look alike, and look alike is in quotes. So it almost seems like he's drawing our attention to the word look alike. And I already know that there's a lot of people who think, and I think Jason Dent mentioned this in the chat, that they think this is a contrived email by Forrest. He's trying to tell us something, and this is not a real email that a blind person sent him.
Yep.
So my friends tell me that Ray Charles and I look alike, and then he says I'm pretty suspicious of their use of those words, look alike. So
that sounds just like Fenn, too, by the way.
Say it again.
That sounds just like Fenn.
Right.
I'm very suspicious of their use of words.
Yeah, it seems like he is
just like something Forrest would say.
Yeah, I agree. It sounds like he's drawing our attention to the word look-alike. And then he says, because you can't look at a map, you're certainly at a disadvantage. So I didn't know what you guys are saying where he said if you can't see the pictures in the book, it's an issue or a problem. But you're going to talk about that, great, Kate, bro?
Yeah. Well, we're just getting initial thoughts.
Yeah. So my initial thought is I think it's very interesting that that I look alike. I'm pretty suspicious of the use of those words. And to me, look alike, what looks like something in the poem. I mean, it's almost as if where warm waters halt, maybe we're looking for something that's like that, but different. I don't know. It does seem like an odd email to me, definitely. And I'm not usually one to say, oh, Forrest is trying to give us hints and all that. But this one, I can kind of see it a little bit more so than other ones in the past.
Okay. Well, okay. So first thought is the ebooks. I had emailed Forrest last year sometime, a little bit before Rodney, but after I had met him. So it was sometime in fall, and said there's so many people. I was actually enjoying the book club that Toby and Shelley did on AGK, and said, what if we just read the whole chapter one by one, not all in one sitting, so people could steal copyrights? What do you think? And he said something like, and I didn't go and look up the email, people wouldn't enjoy the entire book then, illustrations, and especially the Collected Works bookstore, which is a small bookstore, would not be able to enjoy the benefits. And that's really what he wanted to make sure happened. So I got this basically the same answer as Rodney, but a little bit different in, so I think that kind of shows. And then there was a whole discussion of pictures, illustrations, those sorts of things. But let's dive into the first thing. Let's first talk about the map part of this. Do we think, so I sent an email to Forrest and I didn't get a response. So I won't say that there's any heavy weight to this, but I just said, do you realize there is map reading software for blind people? And I just wanted him, I don't know if that would have changed his response if he would have known. I don't know if he is advanced in, so everyone knows that, I'm sure everyone knows that I'm in education and we deal with a lot of disabled students. And we have a lot of blind students and we have a lot of deaf students. So I have become very familiar. Outside of Davio and I are dyslexic. We've dealt with a lot of learning disabilities, but outside of that, there's a ton of physical disabilities like blind and deaf, that there is tremendous amount of tools that are out there that I will say 20 years ago did not exist. So I wondered if it was a map portion that was the issue, because he says the poem and the map. Was it the map that's the issue? And many people, I haven't even talked to you about this, Mike, emailed me today, is this about the map? Is this about the map? Is his map the issue? He has typos on his map. He has errors on his map. He has things that are called out on his map. Well, maps are able to be identified with both the blind and the hearing impaired. Well, obviously the blind is more of an issue on this one. So do we think that this is related to the map, the poem, TTOTC, or all of the above? That's kind of my long-winded question with lots of facets. So let's start with Rodney this time.
I honestly, I think it's about the pictures. I think that there's a reason why he avoided that question, and with the software able to to read the maps, yeah, that's one thing.
Pictures or illustrations or both?
I'm gonna tell you, I'm not gonna read all of the. I'll give you the two responses that I got. The first one, I sent the question asking if I could get the audio or the audio rights and all that. And then he says, "My books are no good without photos. Sorry." And then I responded, like, "No, not photos. I'm just trying to," or sorry. He's the first response. He says, "You can't put all the graphics in or we would have done it already." And then I said, "No graphics. I'm just trying to do the audio so that way people can listen on the go." Yep. And his final response was, "My books are no good without photos. Sorry." So he's talking between graphics and he's talking with photos. Now I'm pretty sure sometime last year. I mean, it was never like confirmed or not. At least this, I'm looking at my email and telling you exactly what happened. But I thought there was and I might get it wrong of who it was, but I thought there was an incident with Cynthia, and she was looking at a picture or something really closely, like one of the original pictures, and Forrest said there aren't any hints in the pictures or something like that. Does anybody else remember this?
Christy, do you remember that or no? I think I've heard that. I just, because I wasn't there, I don't know if it's true or not. But yeah, I think something like that. I've heard in the rumor mill. I just don't know if it's true. Right,
and that's, I can't say for sure, and I don't even know if it was Cynthia or not. But I remember, I definitely
audio goes out all of a sudden.
I definitely remember hearing something to that nature last year. So when I sent him that email and he said, "My books are no good without the photos," or "My books are no good without the graphics," it's kind of like, man, is there something in those pictures, whether it's illustrations or the photos themselves? Because one thing that we know for sure is some of those photos were Photoshop. And you got to ask yourself, is like, why did he go the lengths to Photoshop the pictures in the first place? Why not just stick with the original, and that way that's a photo of the true memory instead of adding other pieces into that memory by photoshopping. And and then now that guy asking specifically about photos and the conversation, Forrest has a way to steer a conversation a certain way.
Well, and that's what I think about his response. His response answered something different, and if people want to assume that answered the questions, I think that's something that we need to talk about too. But at least the conversation of, does this put to bed, you can't just read the words in the poem. There's something more than just reading the words. That's what I know.
I think what it puts to bed is you can't just listen to the words in the poem, or you can't just
and the reason why, because we don't have, and I'm gonna go there, because we don't have punctuation, because we don't have illustrations, because we don't have inflection, because we don't have the map. Those are the reasons. But Davio, what say you, my friend?
Well, it's interesting that he says children have an advantage. Do you remember that in the interview he did? Remember that?
In front of my son 1,000 times. Give me the pictures.
But did you put the pictures in front of him?
Oh my God, he's so, yes. Everything, all of them, 3 books, scrapbooks, the whole enchilada. I mean,
so there's something about the pictures that will take you somewhere. What I have found is the place that I'm in, the pictures can make complete sense. So that really got me excited, and I can't wait for the bloody snow to melt.
Okay, let me ask you a quick question, because this one's a yes or no. Do you believe this email is real from, what was it, Fred? Do you believe he received an email from Fred? Yes or no?
Yeah, I think this is all real.
Okay, so Davio says yes, Rodney says no.
But I mean, he's backed up with what he said to Rodney, basically. I mean, if he wanted this on audio, Rodney would have done it. How long ago was that? A year ago? 2 years ago?
No, I mean, it was relatively recent, like maybe 6 to 8 months ago, something like that.
Mine was mid-fall, yeah.
I mean, I've heard the idea come up before, and he's kind of skirted the idea. I mean, he would have done it, right?
Yeah.
So there's something you need to see in this whole thing. You have to be looking at something. Do you remember when you sit at a dentist's office and there used to be these really big books and you had to go dot to dot drawings? Remember that? You guys ever do that? You guys are too young, huh?
Like connect the dots?
It's like connect the dots, but this all came in one big book. There was cartoons in there. There was some stories.
It was like not a Boy Scout thing, but yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Mostly in dentist's office. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
This is how I have approached many pages of the book, and it has worked out great for me. Remember, I started out actually drawing in my book or writing on the book. Okay, that one got wrecked. Luckily, Cowlazars, his child pulled out the right piece of paper, and he mailed me the book I have, which is what I've made Xerox copies of. And then off I go, having a good time, looking at stuff that's in the poem. I started in the poem, and then I took off to other places. I did this because Fenn basically is telling you to. Highlights. There it is, Jimmy Fast. It's called the Highlights book.
Oh, yeah, like the little kid.
Yes, and
Yeah.
There you go. Right,
Highlights,
right.
Yeah,
now that's going to be...
I don't know if you have this happen, Davio. When I was designated dyslexic, when I was in the 4th grade, so that would have been 8 or 9, I had to go to a doctor, and they told me there were specific things I had to read an hour a day, and then I had to bring them certain exercises. And it was Highlights and Mad Magazine, if you remember
Mad Magazine was awesome.
Those were the 2 ones that I
used to collect Mad Magazine. Yep.
It was awesome, but it was talk about comic books, let alone Highlights that was all about trying to make it fun. Now Highlights, there's some versions of Highlights.
I'm seeing this in the book. Okay, yeah. It's not as obvious. It's not as blatant. But it's there. I highly recommend Xeroxing copies, okay, of the poem. Page 50.
Xerox is the purple, ink. Oh, you're dating yourself, Davio.
What do you call it? The video machine. You would crank out the copies. Oh yeah. So when I was in school, and it was the 60s, early 60s, right? They didn't have a word for dyslexic people. They were called retarded, and they just kind of pushed you along, and hopefully it's going to work for you. That's how it went for me.
I thought it was hippie.
Yeah,
hippie.
And then the hippies happened, and then the mods happened, and then the Beatles. I mean, the Beatles were all the way through. So what I have found is that, think about it. The Beatles, Ringo, we've got rings in the box. Could there be insinuations towards Ringo's? Why on page, 10? I guess 13th line from the bottom, he says 6 inches by 4 inches. When I'm 64. Interesting way of putting things together. He's already saying, below beat, Beatles. I think there's insinuations and hints towards that is what I'm saying. And here's my biggest mistake that I did is I expected big leaps. Okay. And that screwed me up for so long.
Okay, so let's stick with the question. I'm going to say, okay, so Rodney and Davio said, do we think this is a real email?
I said no.
Yes. Rodney said no. Mike, yes or no?
I'm on the edge. I think it is a real email. So, somebody put in the chat, they were like, the look-alike is the joke, meaning Stevie Wonder and this guy both can't see. So I'm suspicious of those words. His friends are kind of making a joke.
I still have some on that.
But yeah. But go ahead. I have some other comments, but go ahead. Finish your thought.
Okay, so for me, and someone asked me this on Thor, which is hintofriches.com. several people, when everybody knows my famous words, and for those of you that don't know, I've been corresponding with a lot of new searchers. The email that everyone thought was fake was, I got a polite email from Christy that said she was a desk person. If you're hiking too far, you're going too long of a distance or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I remember on Chase Chat, everyone's like, there's no Christy. And I was, and I'm like, here's my name. The first time I put personal information out there, don't do it. But I will say I went, no, Christy existed. And that was the first time I stepped back and said, I don't think he's making up as much stuff. He is genuinely, so I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it anyway because I'm going to. I have been in his home, and Mike, I've been there with you, where we sit back and have a discussion for an hour. And then we go over, and he's gotten hundreds of emails in a 1 hour period. I don't think people realize this easily could have been an email. Now, whether some people had said, I don't know if the email is real, this guy could have been making it up. Outside of that, I don't think Forrest, he doesn't need to make up emails because people don't realize fact is crazier than making it up. I personally believe, in my opinion, I would not have made up some of the stuff that has factually happened in the last year that I know about. So that's just my point of view. Not that it's a huge deal, but that's what I throw.
Well, the question is, why did he choose this email to publish on Dale's vlog, right? So
that's what
it's huge. It's explosive. It's groundbreaking.
I think he uses real emails, but he selectively picks the ones that he tries to tell us something through, right?
Rodney, what do you think?
Something.
Rodney, what do you think?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is if it wasn't concocted by him, he still chose it for a reason. I don't know. He does little stuff that make me think, that he's going. Well, it doesn't mean I don't know. I don't even want to say I think. I want to say I know, but I don't really know. But I feel like he goes out of his way to insert stuff into our lives on this chase that relate to us. Like this guy's name being, Fred. But when you have the Totem Cafe caper, he says it's the it's the waitress that said who's going to wash the dishes, not me. But in the same story that he wrote back in 2006, he says it's the cook, it wasn't, he says
Frosty.
Old Fred. Yeah. His name wasn't Frosty, it was Old Fred.
Frosty was the boss, the
boss,
right. Yeah.
Right, but
the ruler.
It's just stuff like that. If it was a real memory, then why would he mix the girl waitress up with a guy cook? And it's just stuff like that, that especially
but he also said
his old stuff is on the internet,
Well, that's the problem that he said. And I am a person that is a little bit similar to him when I give speeches, especially speeches to the masses. I tell the best story as I recollect. He has said, he tells a story, it was raining that day and this happened. And then people go back in the almanac and they see that there was no rain that day. He was telling a story to try to get some emphasis. It wasn't really that there was rain that day. Do you think some of it, I think storytellers that really want to make it go wham, 85-15. People are going, if he sneezes, people it's a hint. If it didn't rain that day, it was only cloudy and it was only misty, they think it's a hint. Do you think, Rodney, that maybe it could be he just didn't recollect every single detail, and he is now being held to such scrutiny to every single detail that it's just a guy trying to tell a story. He just didn't realize it would ever get to this level of detail.
I think he absolutely knew. He knew all along exactly what he was doing. He knew the amount of people that were going to get involved. He knew how big this was going to blow up. But, people attach. So guys, it's hard for guys to remember stuff. Like women can remember everything because they attach an emotion to everything that happens in their life. No, I mean,
do not laugh. You'll get
true.
So Rodney can stand.
So guys the memories that we have are ones that we attached an emotion to in one way or another. So if Ben has this traumatizing experience of him getting fired and his boss yelling at him and somebody coming to the rescue, and he talks about how him and grandma, who isn't grandma by the way, Miss Mary, but he would remember that detail.
Those pies. He's got an emotional attachment to those pies.
Is it a guy or a girl? Is her name? Was it the waitress or was it the cook? Is her name Miss Mary or is it grandma? And I'll agree with you somewhat. So this about the storytelling thing. So he wrote these articles, some of these very similar stories back in 2006, right? Somewhere along the way, he felt like the story wasn't getting the emotional response that we needed to pull out of it. So that's why he switched the name from Miss Mary to Grandma. He switched the woman waitress or the old cook, old Fred, to a waitress. Stuff that makes the story pop a little bit better in order to, especially if you think of like, an old man and a woman cooking, like making pies and like put it out in the window and then somebody comes up and sneaks the pie. It's like grandma's cooking a pie. I think that he does stuff like this to make us find a different abstract. And if he has to switch words around a certain way to get it to be achievable, because the majority of those stories perfectly mirror each other. All the one that like the Bozeman Chronicles or whatever, they're practically the exact same story, except he just switches little stuff around.
I've so wanted to ask you this. For someone who has taken that story that Forrest put out now and the story he put out in the 60s and 70s, there are key you said they're practically the same. I have gone word by word analysis, and I think that's too analytical, but it's so hard to not get to that level of kind of like I almost thought that the first version of Once Upon a While and the second version of Once Upon a While is pointing to the first stories in TTOTC. Many of them can be found in newspaper clippings from a previous version that has been pulled off of searchable databases. And there are key differences like heavy loads, water high, nigh. Those are three that is he telling us to go and find that? That was what I felt.
I think I think the book, everything in the book I think all the stories in the book, for the most part, are telling us the same exact thing. And I think he's telling us where to go, what it's going to look like when we get there, the sounds that we're going to hear when we're there, the sights that we're going to see when we're there. And he's telling us this in the stories of the book.
Yes. Okay. Wait. I'm so excited tonight. Okay. So, what's the next step? Okay. The next step is, do we believe that this is related to visual maps? Maps that are only visual, that cannot be, let's just say for the sake of discussion, that this almost 90-year-old man that we know is so brilliant has figured out that the seeing impaired cannot translate. Do we believe that there is a map involved that cannot be translated? So there's a couple searchers that believe that, he has said a good map's important. Map, Google Maps. Let's focus on maps for just a second. I'm going to go to Davio first. No, let's go to Mike first.
Yeah, Mike, what are you thinking, man?
What? Oh.
Yeah.
Well, here's what I did.
I'm gonna go tuck the kids in real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Right on.
So this is what I did. I went to Terry Scant, because if we're going to talk about this email that Forrest Fenn responded to, I want to know what Forrest has said about maps, right? So shout out to terryscant.com. I put in the word map. It's just me and you, Davio. We're the only ones left. And
Hey, man.
check this
It's all
one out.
good.
So this is a quote, but I don't know where Forrest said it, but he said, "Recently I had a dream in which I inventoried the contents of the treasure chest. I got so excited it woke me up and I couldn't go back to sleep. The map shows the area in which the treasure is hidden," which I'm assuming he means the Too Far to Walk map. "The map shows the area in which the treasure is hidden, but there's not an X on it. Some of the photos and drawings are a peep back into my early life and the way things used to be when gas was 11 cents a gallon. Others depict a colorful life lived out on the edge where the cautious and faint of heart fear to go." So he said others depict a colorful life lived out on the edge. And what has he said about when somebody asks him about the hints in The Thrill of the Chase? He says there's a couple hints, but then there's a couple aberrations that live out on the edge. So it almost seems to me that he just said that he's talking about pictures. Others depict a colorful life lived out on the edge. That might mean that those aberrations that live out on the edge are either an illustration or a picture in the book. Seems to me that he alluded to that. That I don't think you have to figure what those are in order to solve the 9 clues, but I think it helps. He says there's things in the book that will help with the clues, and I think after that quote that there could be a picture that helps. So that's interesting to me.
See, you're describing the parts. We're trying to put together a puzzle, which we do not know what looks like, right? I mean, if a picture paints 1,000 words, we are trying to find the words that paint the picture where the chest is, okay? So that means we need a lot of parts. Sure, absolutely, this photo has got to mean something. He's got somebody here looking back at it. I mean, these photos are all, nothing. Why is it tilted? Why is that one tilted? Just because it looks cool? No way. There is no accidents in this book, okay? Everything has a reason. There's a degrees you can get off of this that's going to help you. There's borders. He's talking about borders. This is around the border itself, the border of photographs. There's little things that you have to think of. I mean, that's why he's saying these specifically. He said when gas was 11 cents. Now he's alluding to what? Depression? Era? I mean, that's an era. That's a time that he's throwing out there that he's wanting you to go and look at and examine. That was my thought. That was my thought on that, especially in the interview with Toby's interview.
Okay, so I'm going to give my personal point of view that is very, very biased because Mike and I had this, I won't say debate because I just gave my personal point of view. I went to a high school that had a large variety of disabled students. I had a sign language interpreter in every single class I had. It was experimental at the time. I had visually impaired students. There was a wide variety of students. So I had just assumed that is what everyone had. And Mike and I started discussing and he was like, no. And so when we started those discussions, there were things like, I saw a sign language interpreter. Hold on one second. My cat is trying to get in.
Which is my point. See, Fenn is living, I mean, we can't imagine Depression era. That's Fenn's era. That's his era.
But here's my point. When Forrest says something like, a visually impaired person cannot adapt because, here's where I get on my diversity hat and say, wait a minute, do you realize how many tools there are and how these people overcome? When someone loses one sense, they're going to overcome with other senses. And when they do, they are actually able to figure out stuff that we never did. In my opinion, just my opinion, I think Forrest probably went off the cuff and said, here's how I think. He never really studied the visually impaired and how they can overcome and actually have higher senses due to other things. Like, I spent the day looking at, do you know how many maps are already converted for the visually impaired? And they probably pick up on things that we never, ever would. I just throw that out as a possibility. I think it's a total tangent from the discussion of what he was intending to with this scrapbook or with this Forrest mail. But I do have to say, I think it's an important piece of, I think a blind person might be able to do this and we don't even realize it. But before, okay, so let's talk about a couple of things. So we've talked about the map. What did we say though? I don't know if anybody actually answered. And Rodney, I want to go to you next. So do we believe that the map cannot, there's something visual about the map. And there's some people that are really, really into the map. Is it the benchmark map that has typos on it? And certain call outs that a normal map would not have. Some people have found maps that are outside of the map, the benchmark map. Is there a specific map that we have to look at that he thinks this Fred cannot decipher, and you have to decipher, or just take your marbles and go home and get out of the chase?
He has said Google Maps.
He has said Google Maps. Google Maps can be converted, and if you know that, it can be converted. And
Simplify. So why are you doing
put out the benchmark map? So there's the benchmark map, and he has said Google Maps. Rodney, what say you? Just obviously, Davio and I are ugly at this point. Tell us what you think.
I think that we arrive to an answer, and then once we have that answer, we use the map and go right straight to it. I think little clues like Forrest had put in, about the two old biddies that said he would run away from home, but he's not allowed to cross the street. I think that lands us somewhere that tells us not to cross the street. There's got to be some reason why Forrest said maybe somebody in 1,000 years or 100 years will figure it out, or 1,000 years will figure it out. I think there's an answer hidden in plain sight that we're just like, boom, it'll all click. And
something that no one has considered.
I think those little clues or those little hints in the Thrill to Chase, he would run away from home, but he's not allowed to cross the street. When he talks about, pushing the grass off to the side when he was, watching the gypsies. Then after he tripped over the headstone, or he tripped over, the stone came face to face with the crude aluminum grave marker. And what did he do? He says he covered it right back up the way that he had found it. He's describing how he hid the chest. He's describing the route to go there. He's describing how, I can't say he is, but I think all these little indicators are pointing to it. I think there's other stuff in the poem not in the poem, in the book, that's going to lead us to, a possible dispute on the legality of it. But at the end of the day, it ends up being ours.
Okay. So you think when he says he's thought of everything, you think there's going to be a legal dispute?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, William says there's a
dispute. I don't want to say a dispute, but there's going to be an entity that comes in and says that you stole it. And that's where Forrest Fenn's place is to say, no, I gave it to him, whether he's still alive or whether it's through will and testimony. And that's when that entity is going to, play dumb and say, you misunderstood what we meant by saying you took this from us.
Okay. Well, and anybody can sue for anything. I mean, look at the McDonald's. The McDonald's coffee got spilled on someone and they had 17-degree burn. So William says there is a map in TTOTC with the 4 nuggets and the golden frog. Oh,
that's
my
a map
God.
of New Mexico, right?
Well,
yeah.
It is an old map of New Mexico.
It is New Mexico.
That's
yeah.
been proven, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, Greg Keller says only able to...
Yeah, they're right there.
Okay. Okay. And I have to say, and I think you can see, I started collecting, let's see, I have historic American Indian dolls, and I will say the first time I met Forrest, he wanted to discuss in length the American dolls, but the genius of Nikolai Finch, I will say, a special friend. This is one that I was not able to get my hands on for a long time, along with $17 a square inch. Those were the two that a special friend, when I met at the bookstore for the first time, when I said, I'm not able to get these and I'm going to continue to try and I will probably just overpay on eBay, a special friend got me those two, and I want to say thank you. But I will say $17 a square inch. I think there's something to it. Just like the Codex. The codex it drives me crazy because I think there's something there.
There's got to be something in the codex. There's got to be.
All right,
Like,
let's get back to the
no
map.
way there's not.
If you guys,
So there's a frog on the map, and there's a triangle. If you take your calipers and put it on there, it actually comes out to 50 feet on Google Maps. So he's insinuating there's a perspective you have to have at that kind of closeness to see the thing he is projecting. That's just one part.
You would have to know what scale he wants you to be viewing at. And you know, part of me thinks that he does give us a scale when he talks about flying over Philadelphia, and he was set at 39,000 feet or whatever, because blood starts to boil at.
Simplify. I do it all the time.
I'll simplify for everybody right now. If you put the word map in Terry Scant, you're going to see all the quotes where he talks about maps, and this one I think is the most important. No one will happen upon the treasure. They will have to figure out the clues before they can find it. Read the clues in my poem over and over and study maps of the Rocky Mountains. So what that means to me is you cannot figure out where Warm Waters halt without looking at a map. It is a named location on a map of the Rocky Mountains.
Hold on, read that one more time.
Yeah, yes.
No one will happen upon the treasure. They will have to figure out the clues before they can find it. Figure out the clues before they can find it.
Stop for a second. Rodney?
They'll have to figure out the clues before they can find it.
Right.
So he's saying find the answer to the clues before you can find it. And then
But once you find out the answers to the clues, then you read the clues in my poem over and over and study maps of the Rocky Mountains. And try to marry the two, is what he says. Try to marry the two.
Yeah, I think
that to me means that where Warm Waters halt is a named location on a map. If I'm going to marry where Warm Waters halt with a map of the Rocky Mountains, it's got to be a location that's listed on that map. So
I don't know, because that person that said if I told somebody to meet me where Warm Waters halt and gave them a map of the Rocky Mountains, would they be able to meet me there? And then there was the other question of if somebody only had those two clues to go off from, would they be able to find it? And Fenn said you couldn't bake a cake with just two ingredients, right?
Right.
Implying that you need all of those 9 clues in order to decipher a one spot.
So which means you need the book, which I agree with. But you're still going to have to, once you figure out where Warm Waters halt, you still have to find out where is it in the Rocky Mountains. And you have to have a map in order to look up where the location is. So I still think the answer to where Warm Waters halt is a named location that you then find on a map, so you know where to go to. Now,
so we're kind of saying the same thing.
Yeah. And for the blind person, I think Forrest is saying if you figure out where Warm Waters halt, you can't find it on a map if you're blind. I mean, you got to be able to find it on a map. Maybe that's why he's telling them you're at a disadvantage.
And even if you,
you can only describe a photograph. You can only describe a drawing. You can put your finger on a Braille map. You can have a 3D rendition, but that's not the point. He's saying there's a simple thing you need to look at, and that's where the children part comes in, right? I mean,
I think that's a jump, and I actually agree with Davio, but I want to take that in little leaps rather than a full jump. When we say something like, okay, so let's focus on the book for a second. I personally, I won't get into personally. When we say what's important in the book or what's important on a map, by this answer, it seems like it is not something that is explicit, that is named out. It is something that a visually impaired person cannot see. Right. So this has changed it for me. It is not a call out that you're just not looking at, and you're not like the one thing in the poem that no one is considering. I thought, what's the one word? It might not be a word.
He never said that either, though.
Say that again, Ronnie.
He never said that either, though. He never said what's the one thing in the poem. He said what's the one clue that nobody has thought of.
But he said there's 9 clues in the poem, so I have assumed that all the clues are in the poem.
Well, as we're talking, I read this answer again, okay? And Forrest doesn't say you couldn't because you can't look at a map. He says Well, Fred, because you can't look at a map, you certainly are at a disadvantage.
Right.
But he doesn't say that you absolutely can't.
Right.
Now where we get into specifics is he says, I know where the treasure is hidden, but if I were blind, even I couldn't go to that spot. Meaning that being a blind man, you can't walk. You
right.
can't walk to that spot. So the fact that you can't read a map or see a map is only at a disadvantage.
Why didn't he say unassisted? Why didn't he say something to say
Well,
all the disabled people, and especially the veterans that are disabled? Why? I just wish he would have said, if it is truly, I don't know. I just
I
feel
think it's
like
a matter of walking around in the mountains blind.
but also you have to find a blaze to find this treasure chest. I mean,
Right.
Forrest hit it, what, almost 10 years ago? If he was to go back, I bet you he needs to find the same blaze that he left to know exactly where the chest is.
Right, but
he
if you
could be in
can't
the
see-
area and be like, I know it's here somewhere. Oh, there's the blaze. It's right there. You
But
know
if
what I
you
mean?
can't see the blaze,
You're not
then
gonna.
you can't
You
put
got
it
no
down.
chance. Yeah. So he's saying,
So-
if I was blind, I'm not gonna be able to find the chest either. I can't. You know what I mean? He doesn't remember exactly to the square foot where he left it. Maybe
So-
it's a possibility.
So technically, the only thing he is saying is, since you are blind and you can't see the map, you're only at a disadvantage. But he doesn't say that you
Right.
can't figure out where the treasure's at, being blind.
Right.
He says you can't go to it being blind. So the fact
Okay.
that
So
the fact
we need
blind
to
and has
take a pause for a second to say, Michael Forney, and I know who you are in the forums. I want to say thank you. He just super chatted and said, "Drinks on me. Good luck this search season." I think we're all drinking coffee
Cheers.
because this is coffee, and I want to say thank you. But we're not even close to touching this bad boy because Rodney, I think you're touching it, but I don't think. Okay. Tell me if you think the same way, and I might be wrong. I feel we're touching on the thing that's important that Forrest is trying to hint at, but do you feel like you have your arms around it? Like, I feel like, Forrest, you're trying to tell me something, but I don't have my arms completely around it. And so when he says something like what you're talking about, it's kind of like the 66,000 links. He never said 8.25 initially. He did eventually. So I believe there's something about 66,000 links that is not found in 8.25 miles. Much like what he just said here, you hit exactly. It is not, they're at a disadvantage. It's not that they completely could not, but then he said he could not. There is something, it's almost like a riddle. Shout out to AJ. These riddles I'm not good at. There's a riddle here that I have not been able to figure out.
Well, he also says to bring a flashlight, and if you're blind, then a flashlight isn't going to do much for you.
And bring your damn sandwich. What does a sandwich
Well,
have to?
The other thing I'm surprised you didn't say was, about safety. I mean, we've had how many people die that can see, much less
Right.
somebody that's blind. I'm surprised he didn't give a little thing on the end, like you need to be safe and all that fun stuff.
That's what I thought he was hinting at. Is like, dude, you can't go wander the mountains with your
Right.
blind.
It's bad enough with all your senses, yeah.
Right.
But here's another one. Back to the named location on the map. You guys know this. The little girl in India cannot get closer than the first two clues. There are many disabled people who are deeply into maps and geography, and they are having a lot of fun.
See, I thought about that one too.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, well, hold on a second. I will say two things. One, Jason Dent, thank you for the super chat. And I
didn't
will
even see
say, when we talk about the little girl from India, who brought up the little girl from India? That was
He
not what?
he did.
Jenny
email.
did.
It was
Jenny
in Jenny's
brought up.
question, right?
That was a brainchild of
It
Jenny.
was a thought experiment. I have the actual question if anybody wants to see it. But the important part is, can a little girl in India who speaks good English but only has your poem and a map of the U.S. Rocky Mountains work out where the treasure is? And he says the little girl in India cannot get closer than the first two clues. To me, that means just by looking at a map, you can figure out the first two clues, which is
But
Warm
no,
Waters
but
Home
here's the-
or the Canyon or Home of Brown.
Let's take it a next step
They're
back.
named
Did
locations
Forrest
on a map.
mean, many people have asked, does Forrest mean India, meaning American Indian, or India in India?
Doesn't
the
matter
continent?
though. Why?
No, but
Why would it matter?
Because, hold on a second.
One's
If
across the
Jenny
ocean.
is the one asking the original question, that wasn't even a forethought of Forrest. If that was something that Forrest came up with this little girl from India, we might be able to pick it apart. But because it wasn't even a discussion of Forrest, it was something a searcher asked, then that makes it different, in my opinion, but only my opinion. Rodney, what say you?
I'm sorry, I completely spaced out because I was looking up a question.
Well, so okay, Davio, over to you. I mean, when we talk
What's
about
happening here is that everybody has an assumption, a preconceived notion on what a clue is, how the answer is going to come to you, it's extraordinarily hard just to take what is there and then figure out what he is magically trying to create.
So
this is just, there's not one thing, there's not two things. He's using like 5 and 6 different things. I mean, he's using Saturday Evening Post drawings, and he's insinuating, first of all, he's saying Saturday Evening and Post, just right there. I mean, because in a drawing, that's what he has stolen, right? He's stolen characters, like on page 111 or 110. The kids walking across there, that is titled "The Problem We All Live With." Okay, that is right, and it's exactly the same everything that's in the Norman Rockwell. It's not Norman Rockwell; it's Saturday Evening Post, because there's other drawings that aren't Norman Rockwell. So it's not just about Norman; it's about what the drawing is and what it says. She's holding a ruler. Okay,
right, but when we talk about that, we at least know that Forrest was the one that was the mastermind behind it.
Right, that's the point.
Like Forrest saying 66,000 links and then someone else saying 8.25 miles. The only thing that we can say is 66,000 links was attributed to Forrest. In that same breath, we have both examples. So I believe if there is a hint, it is in 66,000 links rather than 8.25 miles, much like tonight or what we're discussing. Do we believe that the blind person, do we believe that there is something to all the facets of being blind, or is there something specific in the exact words that he has said? Because we all know what's called Fenn speak. And that's what puts me at a pause. And he lets people answer and he doesn't correct them. That's what puts me at a pause.
He's clearly letting you know drawings matter. Images matter. I think visual matters.
I think he is letting you know that I don't know, because he's not answering even with the map. He said it technically it doesn't matter if you can't see a map. According to his answer, he's saying it puts you at a disadvantage because you won't be able to, see what everybody else, but he's technically it doesn't matter. It just puts you at a disadvantage. The issue is with walking there, like in the mountains, and actually seeing it once you get there. But the problem is that wasn't even the question. The question was about the book. Does he need to be able? Can the blind person listen to the book and not be affected by the fact that he's missing photos
and drawings? And he didn't answer that question.
And he did not answer that question. So I think map aside, being blind aside, whether you're good at reading a map, you can be horrible at reading a map, or you can be blind. I'm pretty sure like you're at the equivalent at that point. I mean, obviously being blind would kind of suck a little bit, but if you don't know what you're looking at, then you don't know what you're looking at anyways, whether you know what's going on or not. But
okay, so there's been a couple of questions that came from the different threads. When he says there's one thing we're all missing, do you think that is related at all to anything he said in Forrest Gets Mail 20? Whatever that is. Do you think that this is a clue or hint, blind maps, whatever we've talked about? Yes or no, do we believe that this is the one thing we're missing? Do you think that this is pointing to it? Is he saying, come on, guys, I'm giving it to you? Yes or no?
But what is it that what do you mean? Is there, like you said, is this the thing that we're all missing?
Do you think that he is trying, that this
Everybody
Forrest Gump
throws
Mail
up.
20 is somehow
What does
related.
that mean?
Just you, Davio. Just you.
Well, I don't even know if I'm
I think
broadcasting.
he's been
There
there
you
you
go.
go.
You're back.
doing that all along. I think he's been doing it every step of the way.
He's been telling us many times you need a good map. So he's telling the blind person, if you can't look at a map, you are at a disadvantage. Me as a
But-
searcher,
Google
I
Map.
don't want to be at a disadvantage. Could be Google Map, could be Google Earth, but he's saying you have to
right.
read the clues and you have to look on a map. So
I pulled up that question about the cake thing, and why I don't think you could find it on a map. It says, "Dear Forrest, you tell us that we should find where warm waters halt before trying to solve any of the other clues. Imagining that we haven't seen the rest of the poem and all we have to go on is A, begin at where warm waters halt, and B, somewhere in the mountains north of Santa Fe. Do you think we can confidently determine the starting place for your treasure haul?" Which the starting place is where warm waters halt.
I agree with
because it
that.
says begin it where warm waters halt. This is
Right.
what he says. He says, no, if all you have to go on are those two clues, you cannot proceed with confidence. Look at it this way. If you were making a cake and you left out a few ingredients, would you achieve your goal? Your question reminds me of another. You leave home and walk. This is the polar bear thing, where he talks about the polar bear line. But so he says you cannot proceed with confidence, and then he also said people have figured out the first few clues and walked right past it, meaning it's got to be somewhere within near vicinity, because this person's asking if we could figure out where warm waters halt. If just based off from the information of begin at where warm waters halt and somewhere in the mountains north of Santa Fe, would we be able to find the starting location of your treasure hunt? Not could we find it?
Right.
And Forrest says no to that, and that's why I think all the clues in the poem give a oh crap, how have I not seen this the whole freaking time? And then you pull
that's called the aha moment.
Well, do you think that relates to his quote where he says there's thousands of places where warm waters halt north of Santa Fe? Look at the big picture. Do you think he meant the poem when he said the big picture? You got to read the entire poem.
Or the book, or North America as a whole.
Yeah.
Big picture.
Really, I do, because technically the Rocky Mountains begin in the Arctic, the Arctic Ocean, right? And Arctic Ocean, by definition, right? The definition of warm waters is an ocean, sea, or large body of water, excluding the Arctic and Arctic. And here up in the Arctic, you have the Rocky Mountains that start there and end up going all the way through the Rocky Mountains, and the main canyon ends up running down in, the Grand Canyon. So it's maybe that's begin at where warm waters halt, the Arctic Ocean, and then the canyon down is the Grand Canyon, and some not far but too far to walk below the home of Brown. Right there's Brown's Park. Oh crap! I gotta go. No, I'm just
Nice. Well, I think we have a tend to overcomplicate all this big time.
Oh, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's why it hasn't been found. Yeah.
It's been 10 years and 350,000 searches, not even searchers. But okay, so there's two more questions that I've had from the forums, and I got to represent. I own one of them. Look-alike. Do you believe, if you do believe that whether this person, Fred, is real or not, when he says look-alike, does look-alike point to anything? Is that the keywords in this scrapbook that the Forrest Scott has got mail? Is that something that we should be looking at? There's something that looks alike something? Is that like a mirror? There's been some discussion on that.
He does hint towards a mirror.
Yeah, there's a lot of references to double images and look-alike. That is interesting to mirror. Yeah, that is actually an interesting.
And then
point.
the double omegas. If you don't see a little of yourself in this
mirror on Terry Scant right now.
And that doesn't even get into one of the scrapbooks has him in front of a mirror taking a picture of himself with that toothbrush holder not the exact one, but
he says if a few readers over the age of 12 don't see a little of themselves in this mirror, then maybe they deserve another turn. Right there, another turn. Boom, turn the page. Find the next one.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Okay, so there's one other one that I think we cannot walk away from. Well, wait, Davio, you didn't weigh in on that one before I get into the last of the forums that we go, we've got to discuss. So what do you think? Look-alike, does it matter?
I think the word look, see, and blind is all referring to you have to be using your eyeballs and seeing something. I mean, just on the simplest definition, the big picture, what is that, a movie? I mean, that's the big screen. So, I mean, there's a bunch of ways to kind of interpret these words that he's throwing at you. I mean, he's definitely saying, you have to look, you have to see. A blind person's at a disadvantage. That's a very polite way to say you're screwed, because
it could be, yeah.
It's all layers. It's all a bunch of little parts. I'm at a disadvantage because I'm not. I had to have the book read to me as well, and I recorded it, right? And then I was able to read it because of dyslexia and all that stuff. So everybody has little disadvantages that work to advantages because you don't have this other thing. So you see some simplistic item that nobody else is seeing. Like I keep seeing drawings all over the poem on why is page 15 bold? There must be something going on there. The blind guy would never see page bold.
Where did I say? I have 4 of these, and I have friends that have more. We're going to do a comparison of the printings.
But I think that's trivial. I don't think that's got anything. That's not going to get you closer to finding the treasure.
Yeah,
figure out page 15. That I think will take you.
So you don't believe. Let me just be clear. Let's just say this was printing 1 and this was printing 5, and there are differences between these books. You're saying don't care.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Pull it out of your. Okay, then let's not even do it. Let's not even do a show on it.
Because technically, with that logic, I could
Everybody's at a disadvantage.
Forrest, I could say, Forrest, I have the first edition of your book, and I know that you've released, 10 more printing since then with changes. Right. Am I at any sort of disadvantage for owning the first edition?
But why have the differences then?
I don't think they're intentional.
I think
they're mistakes.
I don't think it's
mistakes that were caught after.
Like the red letter A that we talked about before. I emailed Forrest and said, what's going on with this A in this one edition? And he said, I can't answer your question. Sorry. Meaning, I don't think it's just an accident. He didn't have anything to do with it.
It's the printer's problem. The printer did it.
Right. I agree when it comes to what you just said, Mike. Yeah. I agree.
I think
because it would make everybody at a disadvantage.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right. If you only have a certain edition,
there's a bigger picture instead of the itty tiny minutia of that little letter is not right. Like I say, page 15 is bold. There are pictures of log cabins. The word wood is in the poem.
Right.
Just gross looking at the.
Okay, so let me just ask a question. I'm just going to be ornery because I'm ornery. So if he put out a second poem and he changed a word, would that matter?
Well, he did do that.
The answer
before he published it,
plural.
yes.
Yeah.
Before it was published, he changed the poem. He said so.
Right.
Wait. He has a poem he's put out. Did he change the poem?
He did change
before it was printed. Is that what you're saying?
No. On day 1.
Well, that's the point.
Day one meaning of the first edition, or day 1 of when he wrote the poem?
Okay. On the day 1 that he published the first printing of TTOTC, since now it has changed. The first day since he has put out the poem to now has not changed. I'm not saying it's significant. No, you don't want to see the differences between printing 1 to printing 9 because you think it has no value?
Well,
okay.
if you don't know what the differences are, you don't know if it has value. So I think it makes sense to
just
define what the differences are. Yeah.
Let me be a little more ornery. So no one wants to see the FOIA. I'm fine with that. If there is no value in any of the pictures of the treasure chest contents, it's gone. Doesn't need to be shared with anyone because it doesn't have a value.
Those are two different things.
It would be cool to see what's in the chest. Because he never specifically says, what's in the chest.
Right.
Obviously, if there's photos, you'll see more than what he labeled. But I don't think pictures of the chest. I don't know if that's what you mean. I don't know if pictures of the chest would help you find the chest. If that makes sense.
Exactly, because he's printed what he's hinting about rubies. There's the color red. He's got diamonds. Well, what does that infer?
Okay, so let me throw out this one
diamond
just because
color?
my mind is blowing up. So let's say, just for the sake of discussion, and I'm not saying it's happened because I actually don't think it has. Printing 1 and printing 5 has an entire chapter that's different in TTOTC. I know that's not the case. That wouldn't be a value, or an entire sentence, or an entire word.
Well, I mean, monkeys play flat on my butt too. I mean, it's not relevant. My point is that what's relevant and what we're missing.
So which printing is important?
But he didn't do that. I'm not going to comment on a thing that's just, an imagination.
Have you done a comparison of the 9 printings?
No, I've got book 3 and I've got book 8. Okay, and believe me, the minutia of what dust was on the printer between the two isn't an issue.
Oh no, I agree with you there. But if there are actual words different,
bigger things that are being grossly overlooked that children notice. That's my point.
This is what
word wood.
I think Forrest likes to, because we see the same thing, right? There's about 6 stories that are in the book that he published back in 2005 and 2006, and they're the same stories. The stories on the internet and the stories that are on the in the book.
On the video too. And it's the same stuff he talks on the video.
Words, right? There's words that are switched around, right? But I think those words is to enhance the story, to get like a response from you. But the thing that is important is the message being conveyed in that chapter, or the abstract that's coming out in that chapter. And he says, look for anything abstract. So onesies and twosies of words switching out, I don't think is a big deal. What I think is a big deal is if, the bulk of that story changed and it no longer has the same effect as what the other one did.
Okay, so Mike just LOL'd. I have no idea what you LOL'd about. What are you LOLing about?
Somebody said, talk about beating a dead horse. I found that amusing. So I think we assume a lot.
We absolutely assume a lot.
And I think we, Forrest said simplify, so I think we kind of overcomplicate. And the reason we overcomplicate is because we assume. Nobody really knows. We just got to try and put it together like Forrest did. But
right. So why is page 15 bold? I mean, that's just.
But it might not matter at all, Doc.
Well, that's exactly.
We don't know.
Hold on, I got the perfect freaking doesn't matter prints 1 through 9, and why is the page bold? Open up every single one of the prints and see if page 15 is bold.
Well, no, but here's the thing: when Davio says Y is X, page 15, I say Y is Y. FOIA or the 9 printing differences. Why do either of ours matter? But you guys were quick to say, no, those don't matter. I never discount anything because, hey, let's all hear everything. I'm fine saying FOIA doesn't matter. It's gone. The majority of the group says, we don't need to share it. Hey, guys, I have 220 new photos of the contents. If you don't think they matter, done, gone, poof.
I mean, isn't this kind of what we do in the chase? Is like think about like our opinion, and I don't think I don't. I mean, I might have said it wrong. I don't think I said it doesn't matter. I think I said something along the lines of I don't think it matters. So I don't think. I mean, I'll replay it, but I mean, whether I think it or whether it's the case, I really don't think the differences in the printing matters, because people are only going to own, most likely people are only going to own 1 and maybe at most 2 copies. So if there are different stuff in all those printings, then whoever doesn't have that printing is at an even more disadvantage than the blind guy.
Well, and let's go into AGK, and Will just said it. Let's go back to when Forrest put this in his head for 15 years. He said 2 things. The poem, and I've thought of everything, and he released it. When we put that in our mind, all the other stuff, the next 8, 9 years, 10 years, whatever the right terminology is, that wasn't his original brainchild.
right?
And I think his original brainchild, this is my words, was pure.
Uh-oh.
It wasn't, I
Bad
gave a
connection.
super secret hint to someone. I gave him a nod. I happened to see him. I happened to say this. I have a secret hint. I have a this. I think he was pure in what he said. So the stuff, even though I think it's super helpful because he ruled
The
out
lights blew
states,
out.
gave elevations, all of that.
I took them out. They were burning.
I'm back.
You're back, Davio. So, Davio, somebody wants you to show page 15. Can you show the bold that you're talking about on page 15? Or Christy,
Right.
if you have
I
the
mean,
book, whoever has the
technically-
book.
Oh, I have many.
Who can get there first?
Technically-
It's a race.
I think
Technically, it's enlarged. Somebody said that it's enlarged. Technically, it's not bold.
Okay. Okay. Mine has some, okay.
Oh, you mean why is that page the bigger typeface? Is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, this
Oh,
is the only
lies are
page. that's got-
underlined. Look at that. What lies just ahead? So you're supposed to disregard that entire page. It's a bunch of lies. I got you.
Perfect.
So
Perfect
why
idea.
is that? Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I got you. Why is that page
Yeah.
the type bigger than the other
Right.
pages? Right.
So
Right.
what I found fascinating is right here at the very bottom. You know, if you count from the bottom up,
Right.
and it says 79th right here. This is the 9th line. That's the 79th word. Children do that. That's what I mean by
Weird
simplify.
coincidences, if it's a coincidence.
Oh, how many coincidences then begin not to? And 79 on the periodic table is old. So maybe there's a little bit something to that. Maybe you have to count up on the poem and you hit a certain word and it matters to where you go in the book. Why
I think
the word
the big picture is the book.
exactly? If it's
Right,
not in
right.
here, it's irrelevant. He made this and planned on dying. All
So
right, that's what he was an architect
Well,
creating
that's the
all
point, though.
architect.
Okay,
Architect.
I'm going to be really
Architect.
ornery right now. So we do it like he wants, and we go another 1,000 years, or we get
Right.
some freaking pictures that he didn't think of, and we start to look at the different nuances of things, and we don't do it his way, we do it our way, and we find this freaking treasure chest. I'm
Well, I say
fine with
that-
doing it his way. Throw out the FOIA. Fine.
Exactly. I think the FOIA is really neato. Again, I would love to see pictures, but it's not the parameters he set out to the
Right.
world to find it. You know,
Okay,
the parameter
we
is
play by
the
his
book,
rule-
the poem,
Did he-
Google Maps.
Did Forrest play by everyone else's rules? Did he?
No, this is Forest rules.
No, Forrest rules is don't play by any rules. Question everything and
Okay.
bring it on. I'm telling Forrest, I'm playing by your rules.
15 years right here. 15 years in here. So whatever, you know, this is what he wanted everybody to see. This book, it's all in here.
Right.
This
right.
then will take you to
And you
the
need a
next
good
thing.
map. And you need a good map.
No,
And you
we
need to
need
do
to
that.
do it his way. We've got 1,000 years. Davio, I hope you and I.
Why did he say 1,000? Why did he say? He said 1. He said 10. He said 100, and he said 1,000.
We
It's
have to
not
play
even
by his rules.
metric.
He's the puppet master.
So
Let's do
it's-
what he's done.
He's
So
hinting
with,
metrics.
With the
It's metric.
topic of everything after 2010, right? We said so everything that he released after 2010. We got to really look at everything that he said after 2010 because the
Yes.
first 4 years after 2010, I think after the book, he started giving hints, right? But
hmm
But what he did is he gave the same ones over and over and over. He really wasn't saying anything new until like 2014, and then he started like
Exactly.
you know, whatever. So you have the book, right? And sure, you can discard all those interviews and just go with the book, right? But then on top of the book, he gave us little hints, but it wasn't a hint every day. He repeated, two can keep a secret if one of them is dead. How deep is a hole?
Right.
He said the same things every time.
Over and over.
He would steer a conversation a certain direction just to say those quotes that he was scripted on saying. What I think Forrest did is he had this idea, he learned a script, and he learned to stick with that script so that way he wouldn't accidentally let other stuff slip out. Because keeping a secret, especially this big, that's pretty freaking hard to do, right? Especially when the pressure's on you every day and you might like one person or, so on and so forth, right? And if you look at his poem, he says, I can keep my secret where a hint of riches new and old. Well, there's one thing that we know Forrest for sure has said in the book, and that's hints. He tells you hint of riches and places where he kept his secrets. I really think he's talking about the whole book. But he didn't want to tell people that you need the book because he didn't want people to think that it was a ploy to buy books.
Right.
Okay, well, hold on for a second. So let me say this. Why, when we discuss something like the poem, do we not get anybody interested, or we get the same hardcore 50? When we say something like scrapbooks aren't involved in the initial, the Fenn's Got Mail, surprise words, 2 other books he's had, why do we even look at those?
Right.
Because
honestly,
honestly,
and if you do, why are we even looking at the FOIA? Well, I guarantee if I did and Mike did a video on the FOIA, most ever that will be looking at it. People will look at it.
Well,
Why?
people are curious.
Absolutely.
So we did
of
get a
course.
super chat from Michael Forney again. Thank you, Michael. But Davio, he wants you to show page 15 and go into your explanation of how you said the word count. And so, in other words, what do you think page 15 is trying to say? If you want to share it on the show,
it's full of hints. It is
Okay.
just
the whole
packed full
book
of hints.
it's insane.
Why
The
is he
whole
saying
book
the
is
word?
literally full?
are you
So-
agreeing, or are you being facetious, Rodney? You agree?
Me?
Yeah.
No, the book
Oh, okay.
is literally full of hints.
Gotcha.
It tells you
Yes,
where to
exactly.
go, how to go, what to do when you get there, literally everything.
All right, let's look at
Right.
page 15 for a minute.
So, on what I have found is there are many other pages. This one obviously stands out. There's no page number, right?
A lot of them don't have
He
pages.
just kind of randomly inserted that in there, right? The page 15. He just kind of added that page in there somewhere.
I'm saying that it's 15 because the page in front of it's 14.
Right,
My
right.
point is
every page with a photo isn't numbered. You know
that
what I'm
must
saying?
mean something. So what I'm saying, the lack of information, he's teaching you how to go about extracting information. He's telling you 79 right here. And when you count from right there where it says steps to there, it is 79 words. 79 words to there on the 9th line. Coincidence? Oh, gee, this ends up being 13 lines. Then there's page 14. Here's page 15. What is 15 on the periodic table? Letter P, as in page 15. These are simple little crossovers. They might start adding up the coincidences, Mike. How many then become not?
You could
What
write a book, Davio, that people would buy with just those type of
15
things. Yeah.
15 years of engineering, 15
Right.
years of being an architect. That told me that there are drawings into the words, just like that highlight book. That's exactly what he's hinting at, right? So from the word sit, you can draw a line up to the I in 9. You can draw another line to the I in first, and it comes out to this 134 degrees. That's the page the poem's on.
Yeah, but how many?
Did you know? And you can draw a line between
Twilight
here
Zone
and,
episode over here.
and then it ends up being the weight of the treasure is 42, and I've got that degrees right here. Now, are those coincidences? He also makes another drawing across in here. Do you think these are how many things?
Yeah, but
does
how
it
many
take?
ways could you make a
Right.
line? How many ways could
Pardon
you make
me?
a line, though?
How can I
many
make a
ways
line?
could you make those lines?
How many ways can I?
Yeah.
I tried every way possible until something made sense. I'm giving you, 2 years of freaking digging around on this thing and giving you what I have found actually matters. That's grossly obvious. I wouldn't give away anything that's going to compromise me going and getting that box, right?
Right.
So all
No,
I'm saying
what I'm saying is how many ways could you draw a line until you got
dozens.
You know what I mean?
Not even that. I can't remember. I drew lines to the letter I because it said SIT, and I said, wow, that really is kind of insinuating that you are like father, like a bench, father on the banco. So I was thinking this had to mean something. What I have found is photographs in other chapters are referring back to lines at the front of the book. I question everything, mostly like Why is there not page numbers? Why are the timestamps just seemingly random through the book? Why is one timestamp on the opposite page? Why is page 15 large letters? Why?
But how
Why
do
no
you
chapters?
weed out what's intentional and what's coincidental? Because you're going to find some stuff that's coincidental, right?
You're going to find a bunch of stuff that is
Yeah.
just not necessary, and that's what he says. He clearly says you're gonna. He's the quote, I believe, in Toby's video. He says you're gonna come across no part of nothing is something. Remember, he says
Any
no
part
part
of
of.
some is better than no part of any.
Say that again, man.
Any part of some is better than no part of any.
Boom, right there. The sum of the little thing. So, like I keep saying, it's parts, right? We keep thinking it's going to be some really big answer. No, man, it takes 1,000 words to describe a photo, right? And he's describing so you want to start getting these puzzle pieces turned over. You know, everything we got 1,000 puzzle pieces right now facing down, right? And when we flip it over, we get a little corner. Maybe we get a corner. I mean, that's what this is like for me. I started out assuming, and then when I stopped assuming and kind of went, oh, look at this, that's kind of like that, comparing things, and then start just goofing off, I got very far. I found the Toby's video, and then comparing it to the video he did before he put the book out, kind of gave me a sense of how he's telling stories. And this is more architect than trying to craft a great story. It's weirdly told stories, except for the one where he's in the military. This really seems really straightforward. Those are really direct stories. Everything else is kind of childish, and I don't know. There's a lot of weird things. That's I don't read a lot of books, but this is, and we know this is a game. Clearly, it's a poker game. We're trying to find the 5 aces. We are, because there's a joker, letter J. There's clearly a letter J in the middle of the poem. I mean, you can put all kinds of drawings, and this is just from drawing lines from the word the end to the, we're just obvious words. You just start putting lines on, and wow, what do you know? They start, adding up.
Oh, never mind. It wasn't. Okay.
So,
there's a lot of rabbit holes there, though. I'd go crazy doing that. What you're doing, Davio.
So,
yeah.
Exactly.
I've been following like his words. I've been following his words and feel like I have an understanding of what he's trying to convey. I'm still trying to get to the point that he's telling me, but I'm not drawing lines or making, shooting azimuths or anything. And
Architect
says he never took an azimuth from. He never took any azimuths when he placed the treasure. So
so that means it has to be a visual reference.
Arrive us to, or words in the book that paint this picture and it puts it in. It's got to be. I don't know.
I mean, he's smart enough to know that MIT thought about this, right? So you scan the book and you put it through an algorithm to take all the numbers that are going to equal latitude and longitude. He did not want that to happen, all right? So that means it has to be visual. To get to the place out there, you have to look at it and go, oh, that is XYZ, just like XYZ in the book.
Yeah.
And it's the lack of information.
All right, we got about 5 minutes, and then we'll go into some other things, because we got about 20 minutes till we're at the 2-hour mark. So anybody have final thoughts on the blind email?
Well, one thing I would like to throw out is the last thing. Scrapbook 200 and Forrest Fenn Mail 20 was put out on the same day.
Now, do we want to go into the scrapbook? I mean, we can go long if
no. I just think, do we want to say Scrapbook 200, Mail 20? I think we can do Scrapbook 200 later. I don't think we need to go over 2 hours, even though we know we have some hardcores. We're over 200.
I will say the Curse of Oak Island season finale's on tonight. You East Coast people probably already saw it, but I'm going to watch it when we get up.
Gotta see that.
Season finale.
Mike,
they might find more wood.
We could go for 9 hours and people would still be here. This could be the Truman Show, but I do believe we could. Is there any relevance to Scrapbook 200 and Mail 20 coming out on the same day?
I think they have a connection together.
do you have any thoughts to it, or?
And what is the scrapbook? Let me look it up.
I think once again, Forrest is bringing us to Montana. It's as simple as
north.
that. It's
Yeah, of course.
and he
the
makes
book.
that,
Okay,
he
my
makes that
childhood in
comment.
Montana. Okay.
He makes that comment of that the place where he hit it is umbilical to him. Well, if you look at the book, Forrest says, okay, right at the beginning, he says all of us are environmentalists to some degree, and me more than most. Well, an environmentalist is somebody that turns out a product of the environment that they grew up in, right? And obviously Forrest talks about the environment that he grew up in. It was the great outdoors of Wyoming, Yellowstone, Montana, West Yellowstone. And every time he gets a chance, boom, he's putting us right back there. Anytime we think we're going to stray away, he never mentioned freaking Colorado anymore, so I'm going to go check that. Bam, he freaking slams us again with some Montana crap and brings us right back there.
Montana crap. That is a quote from Rodney. Montana crap.
West Yellowstone is in Montana, right?
Yeah.
You got my geography right? Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Looking for
it's
it's split. It's a split
Right.
house.
Well, obviously the treasure chest is on the Montana side, but that's just my opinion. I
well,
don't know.
so okay,
Well, there's the entry. Well, there's
technically it's all Wyoming. All of Yellowstone belongs to Wyoming.
The park.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
even the
No. Wait. Let's talk about technicalities here.
I'm looking on Google. I see a border, and there's still green of the park, just a little bit on the left-hand side. So I don't know.
Just a little bit. That's kind of like being kind of pregnant. Are you kidding me? I'm sorry.
Hey, now.
So one thing that I've considered, remember how Forrest said that the treasure is not in Idaho? And he makes all these secrets of two can keep a secret if one of them is dead and blah, blah, blah. There's what's called the death zone in Idaho. And it's a spot in Idaho that there's literally no jurisdiction. It's out in the middle of freaking nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So you would go alone in there because nobody is there. And it's in Idaho, but it belongs to Wyoming. So technically it's not Idaho. Same thing like the part above the part right above the southern Montana border. That is not, you are not in Montana technically. You are in Wyoming still. All of Yellowstone belongs to Wyoming, regardless of what state. Yeah, regardless of what state it falls into.
I'm sorry.
This could be a future show, I think.
Yeah, and Mike, I'm going to take you to Yellowstone, where we go into Yellowstone for the first about 5 miles, and at the 5 mile mark, it'll say state line here.
Inside the park.
Inside the park, and that is where I took a right and hiked for almost over a half mile because I thought the porcupines went up. I will just differ on the technicality of fact. We're talking about fact. I don't even need to discuss it right now because there will
be careful when you assume because you know.
Are you talking about
you make an ass out of Uma Thurman. Go ahead.
The technicality of the fact that Yellowstone belongs to Wyoming? Is that what you mean?
No, there are 2 states represented inside the entrance of the park.
Right. And obviously the state line is there. But what I'm saying is Wyoming owns all of Yellowstone.
Yes.
Because
both of them are still search states, so this is... I'm sorry.
I think he eliminates, since we're going off on a tangent on a bunch of stuff, I think he eliminated Idaho and Utah because that's right there in that West Yellowstone area, at least Idaho. You know what I mean? To me, it seems like what's the most simplest explanation? He found the spot when he was a kid. He always knew where it was, so it's up in that area. I'm not saying in the park, but in that Yellowstone area. Yeah,
but
it makes sense.
That stretch of the Madison runs like straight out of Idaho over there. I'm not saying it's in Idaho. I'm not like saying, when he said it's not in Idaho, I'm just saying like if you are in the park over across the Idaho border, technically you're still in a place that belongs to Wyoming. That's just what I'm trying to say.
No, but I think now I don't even care about like Utah. I'm ruling out. All I'm saying is when you get to Yellowstone Park, there is more than one state that is represented in the state borders. Like if you want to debate that, we can just factually show different.
So, like, factually show that Wyoming doesn't own all of Yellowstone?
How do you prove that? I mean, I guess a park ranger would know. I guess when we're there.
Well, no, like there's a big, huge sign that says Wyoming.
Yeah, because okay, you're misinterpreting it. There is a state line.
There's a geography, and then there's ownership of the park. It's two different.
I don't care about ownership of the park.
But technically, within the border, Wyoming owns all of Yellowstone because there was a dispute of if Idaho,
right, and that's not even a question. Like, here's the thing for me, Wyoming, and it's kind of like saying which one owns it between Colorado and Wyoming and Montana, and who cares, because they're all in the same. They're all in the mix. I think exactly what you said, Rodney. If there was one between a state that's been ruled out and a state that has not been ruled out, there's a there. There's not a there otherwise.
Okay. I think you guys are agreeing, kind of. I'm not sure.
I think I'm being misinterpreted, but it's all good.
All right. Well, I think we simplified pretty well in this video, didn't we? All right, but does anybody have final thoughts?
I have a question, Mike.
Yeah.
Are you taking the boys with you to Yellowstone?
Not at this time, but it's always a possibility. I do want to take them to Yellowstone, but I would like to go there first to check it out, know the area, lay of the land, and then when they're a little bit older, bring them back. That's definitely on the list to take them. Yeah.
Can I just weigh in on that? And I've already weighed in with Mike, but I have met my kids. My kid is 10 and 12. This is the first year I feel comfortable enough to have them where they're not going to hurt themselves, etc. And with the dynamic of having
up in Yellowstone,
I would not recommend. Eric's the most adorable little munchkin on the planet.
If I take my kids to Yellowstone, it changes the trip dramatically. Put it that way. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Big time.
I want to bring my kids. My wife is on the fence about it because she either thinks that they're going to get bored right away or that they could get hurt. I'm like, how old are they? I don't know. I want to bring them to the Grand Canyon.
How old are they, Rodney?
One's about to be 4 and the other's 8.
You know what we really should do is next year sometime, let's plan a family searcher get together.
Well, here's the thing for me, and this is just my opinion because I've had this opportunity for the last couple of years. Is it worth the expense? Because I will tell you, Yellowstone's expensive.
I don't have to pay.
To not do really expensive trips into Yellowstone with kids that...
How much does it cost to get in the park? Is it
expensive? $35 a car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's not the... Hey, Mike, how much is it to stay in Yellowstone each night?
I know. Yeah, of course it's a expensive trip. And if you have your kids, you're no longer doing a boots on the ground. You're taking a vacation.
I camped right outside of Yellowstone at a campsite, and it cost me like $4 for the night.
Right. So, Mike, you should do that.
Yeah, me in a tent, huh? All right. We'll see.
Why not?
Let me get up there and check out the area. But I would like to try and put together a family searcher get together. That could be pretty fun. Like fishing trip or...
Well, I just think, Rodney, I totally appreciate you. I think Mike and I are a little bit more of the Flatlander. I just know him a little better I totally appreciate where you're coming from.
There's casinos up there, right? In Yellowstone, we got casinos.
And you know what?
Roughing It's only 3 stars is roughing it, man. 3 stars.
Right.
Yeah.
Hilarious. I love it.
I love the family part. Like Covert One has said, I personally have said, money's not a factor for me. I could bring my kids. I don't want to get there yet because 1, like Mike said, it changes the dynamic. 2, when you go camping too, that changes the bear. The bear.
Yeah, it's a different trip, totally.
Yeah. So.
Right. Leave the kids at the casino while you go search. Kids Quest, nice.
Yeah, Kids Quest. Yeah.
They have them out here. Yeah.
I've spent some time at a Kids Quest before back in my day.
I think there should be a daycare in West Yellowstone just for searchers. Leave your kids here while you go some boots on the ground.
And
You know
that's
what? I do
What an
not
idea.
know.
I'm going to be on
I
Shark
don't
Tank
know
next
if
week.
anybody would trust me with their kids. You know how much my 12 and 10-year-old would be like, let's do scavenger hunts. And you know what? I have seen Sasha with her little boy. She rocks on just understanding. And I've heard the Fenbury scavenger hunts. There are some people that are so into kids. I would totally trust us to rock that. I don't know if anybody would say, I'm a treasure hunter, just trust me with your kids. But there's some really
you got to
good.
tell me your solution in case I have to get in contact with you. You know, in case there's an emergency, I need to know where you're at. Yellowstone is Minecraft for real. We'll just give the kids some pickaxes and say, get out there, go at it.
Good luck. Go find a bear.
Right.
Go that way.
Survival skills.
Find the baby bear, they'll love you more.
Right.
You know what's going to freak you guys out if you're in a tent out there is hearing the wolves howl at night.
Oh, yeah?
That's really exciting. Yeah.
That would be interesting.
Hey, Davio, when you said, you know what's going to freak you out when you're in a tent in Yellowstone?
The fact that you're in a tent.
In Yellowstone.
That sentence will never happen. I actually have 2 places that are already RSVP or actually paid.
Nice.
No, we're good.
Cool. That's very nice. My favorite place to go is Yosemite because California is close, only a few hours away, and it's everybody wants to stay at the Ahwahnee Hotel, which is 5 stars. You know, so it's
I'm
like,
not that bad. I would like.
it's the fun thing to do. Well, I mean, you have to picture you're spending all day climbing up and down these walls, getting dirty as hell, and working your ass out. And then you come down the wall into, eat your dinner out of a bag, and then you pat, 4 of us are
Well, I
packed
do
into
have
a
to say,
hotel.
the first couple times I went with my brother, the only room they had at the Dude was 1 king size
Get
bed.
the hell out of here, man.
And I looked at him and I said, what do you think? And he said, one of us aren't staying there. I'll stay. And he stayed on the floor, which I appreciate because I won't share a bed with my brother. So I'm the first. I don't think I'm glam or glamper. Like
Glampers. You guys know the term glampers? I never heard. I just looked it up. That's hilarious. Luxury
Glam
campers. Yeah, glam
Yeah.
campers. Yeah, that's glamorous campers.
if you think
Teardrops.
Forrest Fenn is
All
a
right,
glamper,
Cowlazars. I'm gonna set it up.
if you think Forrest Fenn is a glamper, okay, then I'm a
No,
glamper.
no. Yeah, she called me and you glampers. That's right.
I don't mind saying that I won't camp as much. I am camping more. I just don't know if I want to camp where there's bears. Sorry.
Right. Yeah,
They won't bother you. It's not. You guys aren't.
Just bring one of your cats, and if there's a bear, you let the cat
You'll be
go, and the
fine.
bear will go after the cat.
Mike, you get one of my cats. That's it. Oh, yeah, you're saying that. Okay, mister, I have my Skechers on eBay.
My Skechers
Okay.
are on eBay. I actually did it. I put them
No,
on eBay.
I know,
And I have
but
a bid
you
of
had-
99 cents, I'll have you know.
Wait a minute. That you had Skechers as your boots on the ground. At least
Right.
at, like,
Maybe that's
the
glamper.
I have.
But there can still be a federal at the state level, just so everybody knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Every state has a federal court. So
Oh, yeah.
Mhm,
if
that's true.
something falls underneath
District
the
court, federal court.
jurisdiction if something
Right.
falls underneath the jurisdiction of, that means that they regulate, make the rules for, freaking enforce, and everything else. That's all their responsibility.
That's what you're saying. The park falls under one jurisdiction, not split between
Absolutely.
two different states. And yeah, I agree.
Well,
With that.
why do you? I believe that we're not even going to. Okay, so when it comes to Wyoming, Montana, I believe something that Forrest has already thought through, and even the states he's ruled out. But I don't even put that. I'm not worried about that. Forrest has got that, right? Or do we need to get into the legality? Do we need to get into the legalities of the states that have been ruled out?
I'm just saying it could be one of Fenn's little loopholes that he could pull off. He's like, well, the treasure chest isn't in Idaho. Well,
So do you think it's in Idaho or Utah?
No, I'm saying if it was across the state border, right? You have Yellowstone. We got Wyoming, we got freaking Montana, and we got Idaho. If it is, whether it's on the border, 5 feet over the border, as long as it's within the borders of Yellowstone, it's under the jurisdiction of Wyoming.
Okay, hold on.
It'd be like a trick question almost, or a trick answer.
Wait. So are you saying that it could, in your mind, it could technically be within the state border of Idaho, but
still be considered Wyoming? Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Oh hell! Okay.
I mean, I'm not looking there, but it is. That's what I'm saying. Is like it very well could be, and technically, Forrest wouldn't have been wrong by telling us it's not in Idaho. That's the point. That's the point I'm trying to get across. So
okay, so for me, when he says the 4 states, I believe it's the 4 states of the border of the 4 states.
But that shadowed area or that highlighted area is still.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. When he says
over to that spot right there, so
when he says 8.25 miles north of Santa Fe, if it's the jurisdiction of Santa Fe, doesn't that put the entire state?
What?
When he says it's 66,000 links north of Santa Fe, if the state is what
you find the city limits, the municipality of Santa Fe, and you go 8.25 miles above that.
Boo.
So this is what we're going to do since we're coming up on 2 hours, and I'm serious. I want to know what people think. I want to do a marathon Forrest Fenn vlog. 9 hours, live YouTube. Each clue is 1 hour from noon to 9 p.m. And people come in and leave as they want to. Everybody can come in and leave as they want to. As long as one person is always on, we do 9 hours. I think that's a good idea. Just like a discussion, discussion just like this. People
so, Mike, you're the 9-hour guy, right? You're the 9-hour.
I'll start it. I mean, we have to take breaks. Okay. But as long as people are coming in and out of the panel, that would be awesome. Let's do 9 hours. Let's see.
Well, I have to tell you, my very favorite. Okay, so I used to be a track runner, and they called it the 24-hour run. Basically, you had a team of 8 runners, and you had to run.
Right? The baton?
Yes.
Yeah,
you had to run, and you had to go a mile. And, of course, there was only 3 women, and there were 5 men. And it wasn't bad for the first, 10 hours, but you had to, basically, you were every hour running. And it wasn't bad for a while. So when you said, how many hours did you say?
9 hours. I want all the YouTubers to tell me when they can jump in and jump out. It'll be epic. It'll be awesome. I think you can stream for 9 continuous hours on YouTube. I don't see why you can't.
There is a cap on it.
Is there?
But yeah, but there's the stream, like the YouTube live stream or whatever.
Right.
I think Jason did this, and they just left it open for a while.
The record. Okay, well, Jason, if you have, email me because I didn't know about it. I want to know what the record is. What's the longest?
Wait. Jason said Cowlazars. I tested it before at 7 hours, and it will be available.
Oh yeah. It'll take days to process, but really the thing is to watch it live. I mean, the replay will be there, but really the thing is to join in live, and people come in and out. I don't expect everybody to watch.
What if we got Forrest to say?
Who wants to watch a 9-hour video after the fact?
Right. At least you can skip ahead.
I think we should get Forrest to say he will pop in that 9-hour period.
Oh yeah.
5 minutes.
Good luck.
He's probably in right now.
An hour to each of the nine clues, and the discussion can go anywhere we take it. We can spend 3 hours on Davio's page 15, I think. I'm going to email the YouTubers. I'm going to see who's in. We pick a Saturday, noon to 9 p.m. We'll see what happens.
Mike, you wouldn't have to put it up. I always throw my videos away. That's why there are none.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Don't save it. You don't have to save it.
I don't say. I put it up maybe 24 hours, and I toss that thing out.
People got to tune in. Yeah, that's actually a cool idea.
It's got to be a Saturday.
Why leave all this information?
Yeah,
I just throw it away. So if you're not there to see it, if you were there to see it, that's it. So I only talk to maybe 20 people, maybe 40 at the most. And then right after it's gone, 24 hours, throw it away. So if you're not subscribed, you don't know I'm on, and you never know when. And my bandwidth is terrible. I've got better bandwidth at where I'm at over here. But that's how I've been doing it. Because think about it, you really can't be giving away, all the good stuff.
Right.
I want to help
None of
people.
us are giving away
people a
anything,
different
and
way.
no one cares about anybody else's stuff.
It's true. I don't.
True.
But people do watch. We had 220 people watching this. People watch. Now, what they take from it, is up to them.
Exactly. Little
I-
tidbit, little tiny
Marathon
pieces.
Forrest Fenn vlog. As long as I got
I
enough
love it.
coffee, I'll be good to go.
Oh, it
I
looks like
even
Jason
have-
Dent is in.
Grinder.
Okay, I'm gonna pick Jason Dent's brain.
Yeah.
I even have a YouTube channel, and I think it is a horrible idea to listen to other people's thoughts, especially if you're brand new to it, and then you're just getting bombarded with all these like completely asinine ideas. And then
George.
Well,
and
but you know what?
it's not even your ideas anymore.
I've been getting more
Right.
questions about here's the basic stuff, and maybe this is the first year I've been kind of out when it comes to a new search season. Where do I go? What do I do? Somebody said,
We don't know, and we don't know.
I love you, but I'm going to call you out. Someone said, have you ever heard of a woman named Stephanie? I think she's the 200-footer. I figured this out. And I went, oh, bless your heart. Let me give you a little bit, and they're like, do you know her last name? How can I get a hold of her? And then I was like, I gave them Chase Chat and all that information. But it was like, I remember being new. People don't. So maybe there's an hour thing. Huh?
Yeah, I know right where it's at. It's either like, how do I get started into this? And our answer is like, technically, we don't know.
Right.
Read the book.
And then it's and either that or it's I know exactly where the treasure is at, and it's us like, no, you have no idea.
Yeah. Well, and then they brought up some other names, and I'm like, oh God, they don't even think the treasure is real now. And it was so funny and maybe Mike, what you're saying, every hour is a theme.
Right. One of the
Either
9
a
clues.
tumor or something about like new to like some people like, I don't understand the difference between Dale's and Jenny's. And some people aren't even, there is no place that discusses all of that at a very high
2
level.
letters. Oh. Yeah, I got you. I got you. There's something there. We'll have to talk about it. I'm trying to think when. I just have to figure out when I'm available. It won't be this weekend. I actually got to work. But yeah, we'll pick a day. Maybe a Sunday. Maybe Sunday's better than Saturday. I don't know. We'll see. I just like the idea of a marathon for some reason.
There is a new channel that claims that Forrest Fenn is the devil in the book, so that's pretty.
Oh, nice.
Awesome. Yeah.
That's great.
I think that's the same one that's already been out there on forums, and they're the same people.
I mean, we just did 2 hours like it was nothing, so I don't think 9 hours is that big of a stretch, to tell you the truth.
There's 2 things that are really important about this YouTube stuff. That is, new people get to see stuff that's out there so they aren't, taking off thinking they've got it all figured out. You know what I mean? So, and also, it's a way of hearing other ideas that you already thought of, and it makes you go, well, maybe I'm off on that, or it just kind of keeps the conversation going, because it's really hard to find people who are interested in hearing this. I mean, friends around me don't want to hear it anymore, except for a very specific group. So I'm thinking it's nice to have it. For me, I got nobody to talk to. I'm lonely out here, so it's a way of having this bizarre little social interaction through the confuser here.
Yeah, right. And people can just come in and out as they want to.
I like the all day thing is brilliant. I think that's brilliant.
I mean, people like the
Just
live
throw it
chat
away.
room.
Okay, wait a minute.
Live
It's like a
chat's
coffee
different than a
shop.
forum.
Can
Yeah,
I ask you
it
a
is.
question?
It's a coffee shop. You walk in, hang out.
Hold on. I'm taking up the bedroom right now. It's 11 o'clock. So I'm gonna sign off so my wife
Okay,
can go to bed.
gotcha.
But thanks
All
for
right.
having me on the show, and it was pretty fun. It's been a while since I did it, so.
Good to see you,
All
Rob.
right, I'll let you know when the marathon
Well done,
is.
man.
You gotta say hi. All right, Ron.
All right.
Well, let me
Yeah.
ask you, of the people between Davio and Mike that did not participate in the marathon, were you a part of the marathon at all between, I think Jason and Sasha jumped between, like 1 hour was one of them, 1 hour, I don't remember.
So they've done it for several hours already.
Right,
Okay.
but were you a part of that?
I wasn't. I didn't even know about it.
I didn't even know about it. I don't know
Yeah.
why.
Okay. So, hey, Mike, before you
Well-
throw out an idea, maybe check in with what the pros and cons are to
But-
each.
But there's a difference of just saying we're going to go live and we'll talk. But there's a
Doing
difference
it.
saying we're going to go 9 hours specifically. We are, you know what I mean? We are going to be live for 9 hours, or I'll be live for
Yeah.
9 hours, and I hope people join in. And it's
Yeah,
not just me
exactly.
rambling. I'll read the
Okay,
book for
well,
9 hours.
I'm gonna be ornery. Which one did they do, Mike? Did you look at the differences and did you ask them? And Jason, what do you think?
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What are you
I'm
talking
trying to
about?
say some of this stuff has already been done. Let's
Yeah,
actually
but the difference is
Oh.
I didn't do it. That's the difference. You know what I mean? We didn't do it. So, in other words, I don't care if anybody's done it before. People have been live on
Yeah.
YouTube for a long time. I mean, you can if you put in
Right.
live in YouTube, you see stuff that's going for 10 hours. I just thought it would be cool to
Right.
do a Forrest Fenn because you have a live chat room for 10
Yeah.
hours. It's different than a forum. It's
Yeah,
real
that-
time. Yeah.
The conversation just kind of goes.
Yeah.
There's a conversation that day. It's Fenn Day. That's what it
Yeah,
is.
it's Forrest Fenn Day.
It's a Forrest Fenn Day.
Maybe we do it
and
on his
that's it.
birthday. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Now you're thinking. So this is just a conversation that's going on all the time.
I will talk
We
to you
can talk
about
about
it,
this.
K-Pro, offline.
No, it sounds bad.
Hey.
It's done. It's great.
It would be-
Bad.
It's just it's ridiculous, that makes me like it more because it's really very silly. It's ridiculous. I mean, we should get kids doing drawings. I mean, Xerox some stuff and have kids do some drawings and see what shakes loose.
Right.
That's
All
gonna
right,
be fun.
everybody. I think that's it. I think we've said everything that needs to be said, right?
Indeed. Yes.
Well, thanks for coming
Buy
on.
a grinder.
Fabio. Yeah, I
Yeah,
will.
man,
I
it's good to
definitely
see
have
you.
to get one. Yeah, and I will. This might be the coffee for the marathon. I might check it out.
Ooh, good call.
All right. So, any parting words, Davio? I know we've been through this, but we'll do it again.
Everybody stay safe. Much love to everyone out there. Stay imaginative, stay creative.
Yeah.
You know,
for sure.
that's exactly what this book is trying to promote. So, right,
I agree.
that's about all. Much love
Simplify.
to
That's
everyone.
my parting word.
Simplify.
Simplify.
Yeah.
If you can. That's what Forrest said. If you can. Because I think he knows
Right.
people just overcomplicate it and go off in some direction.
That's
So.
it.
Okay,
That's
Pro, any parting words before we wrap it up at the 2 hour and 6 minute mark? Or somewhere
Yes,
around there?
I have a couple of thoughts. I will say one, if you have not gone to AJ Rainville's YouTube channel, he is teaching me riddles and ciphers, and we're also talking about just how do you see things that most people don't see. I would like to introduce you to Thor, which is hintofriches.com.
There you
There
go.
is a commemorative chest that Chris Jones is giving. You
that's
need
right.
to register and get to our site to be able to get there. $3,500. And all he's saying, registered and put your name up. If you do, you're registered and you have a chance to win. There's only about less than 100 people. So do it.
So he's had 2 chests on eBay. The first one went for $3,500. The second one went for $4,100. He's giving away one for free. I mean, you want to talk about money for boots on the ground. So if you go to, you want me to show the Hint of Riches post, K-Pro?
You can.
Where is
$2,000.
it? Yeah, I mean, it's not a cheap
Wow.
chest here. We're not,
No,
All right,
I
let me
would.
find
I
where it
would.
is.
Just in bronze, it's got to be $4,000.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what he's trying to explain to people. Is why
And
these things are
Rudy
so
Green,
expensive. Yeah.
treasure hunter, I want to do a shout out to. He bought the first one, and
Yep.
he's now doing videos on YouTube. He's in the chat saying he's doing like metal detector and all of that. And
Yeah,
it's
Rudy Green
awesome.
on YouTube. Yeah, it's pretty cool. All right, here it is. I'm not sharing it. You guys won't see it. But if you go to Hint of Riches, go to the forums, and right here at the top under Forrest Fenn's Hunt, the very first sticky, what do you call that? The very first sticky post, I guess you could say, is right here. Treasure chest giveaway. All you have to do is comment with your screen name. That's it. All these screen names are going to go into a hat somewhere, sometime, someplace. All that, those details will be forthcoming. and then one's going to be pulled. And then K-Pro can take the screen name, match it up with an email, and we can contact that person and say, you won. And I hope it's live stream or some way, but I don't have any details on that stuff.
Okay, and I never mess with Totally Not Mitzi, but I'm just going to say, she has said to Rudy Green, if you would like to buy me one, I wouldn't turn it down. I'm going to just echo, because I seem to agree with Totally Not Mitzi nowadays. I feel the same way. So just know that there's a new one out there on eBay, but no, there's a free, like it's truly free. Just register, put your name up there. We've had at least 50 new registrants, and they put their name on. That's it. Literally, you only have to put your name. It's awesome. There is a contest for a silver non-sequential coin, which goes for a couple $100, which is between the year of the Great Expectations or the year of the explosion. Great Expectations is leading the way. Register, vote. We're going to start another one. And then Function in the Junction, we're going to talk about more. And there's new hunts coming out this week, maybe even more than one if we can get it all together. That's what we got going on.
And I will point out that on Vanettis.com, which is where you can purchase the web, where you can purchase the treasure chest, check it out. There are prices now. Number 50 to number 100 is $2,900. So you guys can email Chris if you want to know differences. But you can see the polish is crude. You know, when he has to buff these things, there's a lot of man hours involved. Number 21 to 50 is $3,900, and 11 to 20 email for pricing. So just wanted to let you guys know there is some pricing. A lot of people were like, well, how much do these cost? And there you go.
$1 million.
They're expensive chests. They're not cheap. That's for sure. So, okay, everybody. Anything else, K-Pro?
I don't think so.
My Skechers are on eBay. I kind of did it as a joke, but they actually has a bid of 99 cents. All you got to do is search Cowlazars on. There you go, Davia. That's the next one.
Nice.
Don't tell me those are your boots on the ground moccasins.
These are my everyday keep my feet strong ratty shoes. I forgot what they're called. Chacos or something.
Right. I'm gonna show the auction.
If I don't make audio before the end of this treasure hunt, that is my definition of success. If I don't meet Davio, not.
Any chance you'll be in Yellowstone for the function, Davio, or no?
When is it?
June 21st. That weekend. That's like a 3-day weekend of June 21st.
Sure.
June 21st is Friday. So that, I mean, I'm gonna try. I'll be there unless for some reason I physically can't. But yeah.
Strong maybe. Maybe. So I've gone from no way to maybe actually.
And that's kind of how I was. Yeah. I was like, I can't do that, and then I was like, I got to do that. I got to meet everybody.
Davio.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good social thing for me to do. I think that'd be smart.
That'd be cool. Yeah. So here's the world famous Cowlazars boots on the ground Skechers on eBay. This was a joke, everybody, but I am right now. It's got a bid of 99 cents, so this will help me get to Yellowstone, I guess. So there
let's
it is.
See.
It'll come up on your screen. It'll come up on your screen.
What's a Skechers? Oh, Skechers are those.
Yeah, they're tennis shoes. This is what I wore 5 days in a row to Red Rock to find the.
And they're destroyed.
Yeah, they're kind of destroyed. I mean, so I was like, hey, they're there. And then the other thing is, Red Rock's awesome, right? We've got another 3-book bundle up, and that's at $117. That ends Sunday. So if anybody needs all 3 books, and you get one of the 2019 coins, so that's out there. Okay,
hey Mike, look at Lavender Blonde. Look at what Lavender Blonde says. Everyone say Davio like roof. What is this word?
Where Lavender Blonde? I think I knew her in high school. Anyway, everyone say Davio like Rufio. Davio. Rufio.
Oh.
Davio,
I can't figure out.
Am I pronouncing
Rufio,
it right, Davio or Duvio?
That's Peter Pan. Rufio is from Robin Williams' Peter Pan version, actually. That was great. Yeah, Rufio. That's exactly it. Mitts, right on. Yeah, it was called
Peter Pan. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, wasn't Robin Williams in that?
Yeah,
the movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Robin Williams was a Peter Pan Popeye.
Yeah, they got it. Yeah, people are commenting. Ravio like on Hook with Robin Williams. Oh, that's cool.
My name comes from audio. I was working in audio, so Davio, audio, hey, like that.
Okay, cool.
Big hair like Fabio, so all those words kind of,
Yeah.
There you go. Mike, I'm glad. Good to see you, young man. You're
Hey.
looking well.
Thank you for coming on. You
Good
too.
to see you.
You're always welcome back. And if we do the marathon, I expect you to be on for a good couple hours anyway, until your
Hey,
Wi-Fi
when in
cuts
doubt-
out.
Exactly. When in doubt, give me an email and I'll make it work. You know.
Yeah. All right. Anything, K-Pro, before we sign off? Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hit the thumbs up button. I think this might be our longest vlog. Subscribe, and I'll have details on the marathon. It's going to happen. I just don't know when, but
I like it.
I'll figure out what some details. Yeah.
Love you, K-Pro.
All right. Let me.
Kurt,
We're going
right
to
on.
play the song as we go out.
Kurt in Wyoming.
Thanks,
I love the
everybody.
song.
I got to work it out where you guys can hear it.
I know. That'd be fun. Because I'll do the background vocal.
They wanna find the treasure, they wanna find it now.
Yeah, it's like the ghost from Caddyshack.
Right. Yeah, there you go. The groundhog, yeah.
Over it and over it again. This treasure hunt